Brian Howell, it is Kansas State week, the final regular season game for Colorado during let's be honest, a forgettable 2025 season, or I guess rememberable in some negative aspects, kind of an infamous season that's been taking place here. Uh, the big news to come out of Deion Sanders' press conference today is the fact that Julian Lewis is not going to be playing in this game to be able to preserve that red shirt and come back next year with the Colorado Buffaloes as a second year freshman, a redshirt freshman. First off, your initial reaction when you heard that news?
Yeah, not surprised. I mean, I actually wrote a story up before the press conference saying that very thing, just in case Coach Prime was going to mention it. Just it makes sense. I mean, if you got a shot for a bowl game, he absolutely plays in this one. But at 3-8, there is no point in him playing. I mean, you want to win this football game, but it doesn't matter if you win this football game. And you're not trying to win one game and give up an entire year of eligibility for Julian Lewis at this point. And I know that his goals would be, you're in college 3 to 4 years and you're off to the NFL, but it doesn't always work out that way. And there's a lot of kids over the years, quarterbacks or other positions that had those visions and dreams of I'm going to be here only 3 years or only 4 years and then move on, and it doesn't work out, and they wish they had that fifth year, or glad they have that fifth year. And so I think at this point the best thing, because he hasn't been the guy all year, is to just sit this one out. You did a good job, kid. Nice job in your couple of starts here at the end of the year. You learned a lot. Now let's move on to next year.
Yeah, and I think the counterpoint people are going to make and are making right now on social media and message boards is that, well, there's going to be this 5 for 5 rule that's probably going to get passed. And so it would be kind of a moot point. And also, I've seen a few times, well, Julian's probably not going to be in college for 5 years anyway. So this is kind of pointless to do this. I want to take a different approach with my opinion on this, Brian. I think this is a great decision, but it has nothing to do with the redshirt rule. It has everything to do with the fact that Colorado has given up 26 tackles for a loss, including 11 sacks with Jordan Seaton
Mhm.
and Larry Johnson, the third out. You're going out to Manhattan. It's going to be cold. You've got a team that's playing for bowl eligibility. You can't afford to have Julian Lewis get a serious injury going into this offseason. He is
Yeah.
what you're going to be selling to transfers. He's what you're going to be selling to high school recruits. Come in, look at what Julian Lewis did. And yes, it wasn't perfect in those 4 games of action, but it was glimpses enough to go, this kid's really special. And this is who you're building around. And if he has a major injury, Brian, out in Kansas City, I mean, that would really set this program back.
Yeah, no question. And obviously those things can happen in off-season workouts, things like that. But certainly you put yourself in more danger if you're going against a K-State defense that really wants to get to a bowl game and is probably going to be fired up to go after our freshman quarterback. So yeah, you make a good point there that you give yourselves a better shot of him being healthy in the offseason if you don't play him in this game. And West Virginia got him what, 7 times
Yeah.
that first game. I don't know how many times ASU got
Four,
him.
four, four
Four
times. Yeah.
times. So he's taken a lot of hits the last couple of weeks, and again, to your point, he's had 2 starts, and neither of them did he have Jordan Seaton or Larry Johnson, the two right tackles or the two tackles, blocking for him. So it's not a depleted line, but it's certainly a patchwork line at this point. Another point I'll say too is, I know a lot of fans are going to say, "Who cares about this?" But just from a human element, I like that Kaden Salter gets one more chance. This is a kid that has been a good quarterback in college. He's had some good moments here this year. I know it's been up and down, and it was very down the last couple times, but this is his last game, no matter what. And so, from a human element, I think it's cool that he gets one last chance to go out there and try to have a better lasting impression than what he showed against Arizona a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a beating heart, you think back to 22 and how special that day was, Colorado winning against Cal. Uh,
Yeah,
and the rest of that season, just a complete mess.
yeah,
Um, Kaden Salter can't do anything out in Manhattan to completely rewrite the narrative for him as a Buff. That it's
yeah,
impossible, but it would be kind of cool to have that moment for him, because again, from the human side of it. And if people have a problem with it, that's fine. But it's not like he's just not a natural leader. It's not like he's a bad guy, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And,
I, I
and look, he played really well against Iowa State, the best win of the year, right?
yeah,
He played really well against Wyoming. He's had some good moments. It was really bad in Salt Lake City, which uh, that game was set up. That was going to be really bad no matter who played quarterback for the Buffs. I mean, just that Utah team was, angry off of the loss against BYU, and I mean that was the start of about 3 weeks where Utah just pummeled everybody. So that was going to be a bad game no matter what. And then it spilled over into the Arizona game. Obviously, I like that Kaden gets a chance, and I don't know if he will play better. I don't know how well he's going to play. K-State's a pretty, it can be a salty defense, but I like that he gets that last chance in a game that it doesn't mean a whole lot. And that's why Juju doesn't need to play. But I like that, Kaden gets one last chance to go out there and prove himself.
yeah. Coach Prime talked about and admitted that, hey, the team meeting on Monday was pretty intense. And I don't. There hasn't been any footage thrown out there from that. I
Mm.
mean, there's a lot of people talking about that. There is this young core that does seem bought in right now. And you start
Mhm.
with Julian Lewis and Alexander McPherson and London Merritt. Who else in this program can you kind of hang your hat on? Tawfiq Bayard, of course.
Yeah.
Who else can you kind of hang your hat on to from that group? I think Coach Prime kind of listed off some of those guys today, right?
Yeah, he really did. And I think it's still one of those things in this era that we're still, and us covering it, but as Buff fans and probably as a coaching staff, everybody's going to hold their breath at least until that portal window closes. Because even if those guys say they're bought in, you never know what happens during that portal window in January. But he mentioned Brandon Davis Swain on the defensive
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
He mentioned um, he said Chauncey Gooden is going to be a very good football player. On that offensive line. Trying to think of who else he mentioned, but obviously Omarion. I don't think he mentioned Omarion, but Omarion's going to be,
Joseph Williams is
yeah,
another young guy in the program.
yeah, yeah. Those are some young
I
guys.
know those guys have made you want to pull. I don't have any hair, but if you have hair, have made you want to pull it out at times this year.
Yeah,
But the talent is obviously there.
yeah. The talent is there, and he's mentioned a couple linebackers. I'm sure Mantrez Walker he didn't mention by name, but it sounds from what we've heard that Mantrez is a guy that some people are high on. I think it was Jeremiah Brown told us last week. He said,
Yeah.
"Look, Mantrez is going to be a player." So Coach Prime mentioned there's some guys because there's some corners that are coming that I'm really excited about, and he may be talking about some high school kids or some portal kids they're looking at, but there definitely is a young core, and
Isaiah Harge, I think you throw in there, right?
yeah, yeah, because we'll see. Isaiah has not made the impact that we maybe thought he would a couple years ago when he was being talked up, but he clearly seems to be loyal to Coach Prime. Isaiah Hart talked to us today, and we'll see what position he lands in. I thought he was okay at corner the other day. Is that the spot that he plays? Maybe he's one of those corners that Coach Prime is excited about. But there's definitely some guys. I mean, there's some core guys, and Harge more than anything could be one of those leader type guys. And Coach Prime also mentioned, look, because you can't be a leader if you're not a baller. And so Isaiah's got to prove himself that way. But I think there are some leaders there. Zach Atkins is a guy that comes back for a year. Coach Prime didn't mention him, but he spoke very much today about Atkins did about I want to be a leader, not only in my room but for this entire team. So he seems bought in and ready to go. So yeah, I absolutely think there's a core. Um, Adam, there's a lot of people that they're looking at this like this is such a disaster of a year and blow this whole thing up, and I get all that. And in some ways they look like they're far away, but I don't think they are. I think that you look at some of these scores, and I saw a tweet before we started here. Somebody had like score lines. They were all like early fourth quarter, late third quarter, all these games this year that they lost. And it was like, you're only down by this much against ASU, 21-17. You're leading TCU, you're leading BYU, things like that. They're not that far away. They just didn't finish games. And like Coach Prime said, they missed on some guys. They've got to hit better, but I do think they have that core group of guys they can build around.
Yaya Tia, another one that comes to
Yes, he was
mind.
another one. Yeah.
Uh, DeCalen Taylor, it sounds like is going to come back and play for the
Hmm.
Buffs next year, is what I've heard. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there are pieces like because things have gotten disastrous at times since that first bye week. You've gotten those 22 comparisons, but I mean that's just emotional. That's just emotion talking. That's not
Yes. Yeah.
reality from like the overall talent that is still going to be on this football roster once they report
Yeah.
back in January. And you're going to be able to bring in some guys from the portal. And like you said, they got to do better. They just
Yeah.
do. And that's something that Coach Prime talked about today as well, is that it admitted that they just missed on some guys in the portal. It's a very difficult process because with high school recruits, you have a very long time to vet things when these guys jump in the transfer portal, if you're not one of the first schools that's kind of getting in the mix, you're probably not going to get in the mix.
Yeah.
And so you just don't have the luxury of being able to vet these guys as much.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, Coach Prime today, he said, look, last year we hit on some high school guys, we hit on our portal guys. This year we hit on our high school guys, not our portal guys. And, they've got to be better on the portal side of it, obviously. And I will say, when he was talking about the young core, he did emphasize on offense, not so much on defense. I mean, I think there's a lot of changes that got to happen on that defensive side, but he absolutely, I love in some ways maybe he's not totally transparent, but I think you and I have talked about this. Coach Prime is more transparent than other coaches we've covered, and I loved today, how honest he is, and he's like, "Look, I messed up. This is what we got to fix. We have to be better in this regard." Not a lot of coaches have been as forthcoming as he is, as far as like, this is where we need to be better. We have to be better in the portal. There's no mistake about that. I know, Adam, they've lost a couple of recent, top ranked recruits in the high school ranks, but it's not like they have garbage on what's left. I mean, there's only 10 commits, and that's why their ranking is so low. But I was looking the other day, and as far as like the 24/7 sports, average player rating, they're sixth in the conference. It's not like they have bad players in their list. They just don't have a lot of them.
I've covered Colorado teams in recruiting that lose guys to like New Mexico and
Yeah.
some really random
Hmm.
group of group of five schools. Like, yeah, no, it's very complicated though because you also have to go back to like things have to change. And so it is kind of this critical offseason that's coming up. Before they do that, they're going to play Kansas State. We're going to get into that game and preview that later in the week, Brian. But before we get out on this video, I just want to get your recap of your experience out to Las Vegas. You went out there to see Shadour Sanders' first NFL start. Matt Smith was along as well. So
Yeah.
gold stars for both you guys. I really enjoyed your video down on the field.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was very much a last minute decision last week, and obviously Shador was named the starter, I think, last Monday or Tuesday, and Matt actually brought it up to me first, and he's like, "I think I'm going to go out there." I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And I started thinking about it. I'm like, "I wonder if I should go out there." And we have a travel budget here at the paper, and part of it was, we budgeted for a bowl game, which wasn't going to happen, and so. Talked to my boss. So, what do you think? And she was, yeah, I think that's a great idea. So, I think I got a credential on Thursday, and and I think I can't remember if I booked Wednesday night or Thursday morning for Vegas, and it was a whirlwind. I was telling you beforehand that obviously the Buffs played at 6 o'clock on Saturday night. By the time I got done with everything, it was like four something in the morning. I laid down for about 30 minutes and and flew to Vegas, and but it was great. It was so awesome seeing Shador, and it's very fun covering a game when you're only worried about one person as opposed to covering the entire
Yeah.
event. And but it was really cool, seeing Shador out there, and just being able to focus on watching him. And he wasn't perfect, but he went out there and got the job done. And
That deep throw. Oh man,
yeah,
that how many people on the planet can make that play?
not a
Like
lot, but
less than 10, right?
yeah, yeah. And there was it reminded me a little bit of the very first time I saw him live when I went down to the Celebration Bowl, his last game at Jackson State, and he made a couple throws similar to that where I'm like, man, I don't remember the last time I covered a quarterback in Colorado that could do that, you know, and when we saw it for 2 years at Colorado, and so that play, Myles Garrett reaction was, I think, everybody's reaction, right? Just that, like, whoa, can't believe that. It was
Yeah.
unfortunate that he made a really nice play to roll right and find Jerry Jeudy deep, also in that game, but I don't know what move Judy was trying to make there, but that it would have been interesting to see what would have happened had Judy just kept running, hold on to the ball, and try to get a drive going there. But um, I didn't realize this because I don't cover the Browns, but the Browns reporter asked Kevin Stefanski after the game. He asked a question where he mentioned those three throws, including the 66-yard touchdown, were the three longest pass plays of the season for the Browns, and they happened with Shadour at quarterback. You know, so
He kind of forced their hand, didn't he? I mean,
yeah, you know,
how could you have to name the guy the starter after
yeah.
that? You
Well,
have to.
and this was I think it was a radio guy out there. I liked his bluntness. He said he then asked Stefanski. He goes, Coach, your last 17 rookies to start lost their first game. This kid wins his first game. Why don't you just name him the starter? And Stefanski's like, well, there's a lot more that goes into it. And then the very next day he names him the starter. So, you know,
I mean, I
but
guess it's the stuff. It's not that with Stefanski that bothers me. It's all the stuff leading up to that.
right, right,
It's
right.
like
Yeah.
I understand a head coach needs to, be able to consult with his staff before making an announcement like that. But it's everything before that, just really setting Shadour up for failure until just this past week.
Yeah, until Shador's like, I'm not gonna fail. So here you go. And
Yeah.
I will say the other part of that trip was really cool is Matt and I got to see Coach Prime briefly before the game, and Coach Prime mentioned today he was in full on dad mode. It's the first time he's ever watched Shadour play football without being on the sidelines himself, and he enjoyed being a dad. You could see it in his face, like he was enjoying the moment. And but I will say to Buff fans, he also expressed to me and Matt, this is not, we weren't interviewing him. There was no cameras on. He's like, it's hard for me because I sort of didn't want to come here coming off of a loss because it bugs him so much that they lost the night before against Arizona State. And but he was a dad and he wants to be there for his son. And he goes, I just wish we would have got a couple of wins, over the weekend. But he got a big one with his son getting that first win. So there's at least that.
If you have kids, I don't think there's any chance you're criticizing that decision.
No,
This is
I
you,
actually
you only
told
get you
Coach.
only get to
Yeah.
do this thing one time, you know?
Yeah, I actually told Coach Prime because remember last week he was asked, "Are you planning on going to Vegas?" He goes, I haven't decided yet." And I actually told him, I was like, as a father of four myself, I said, I'm really glad you're here because
Yeah.
you deserve this moment. I mean, you've been waiting for this your entire life to see your son play in the NFL. You had to be here. And he kind of laughed and he goes, "Yeah, that's when he's like, I just wish it wasn't coming off of a loss." And like, yeah, I get it, but like as a dad, sometimes people are going to criticize Coach Prime no matter what. He needed to be there. I'm glad he was there because that's just too cool of a moment. That's going to be more of a long lasting memory for everyone in the Sanders family than anything that happens at CU anyway. So I'm glad
Yeah.
he was there.
Very cool. Good recap there. And now we got one more of these to cover. Are you driving or flying? We'll get into that later in the week. We've already
Yeah,
gone too long on this. Let's talk Kansas State on our next video.
that
Appreciate you,
sounds good.
Brian.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.